Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out today. I'm really thrilled with this turnout. We did a lot of planning to make this event happen, and it's always a moving target to try and understand how many folks would want to come and listen to your legislators and, of course, our Lieutenant Governor. If I haven't met you and I don't know who you are, I'm Dennis Cataldo, the president of Cataldo Ambulance Service, and somehow I think I self-elected myself to try and put this event together. Having been members of most of the chambers in the room and a past president of two and a board member of one, I can testify to the value that small business brings to our local economy. I think everybody knows that small business is the lifeblood that drives our local communities and really sustains our local economy and provides us opportunities to do business local and to support our friends and neighbors in our own hometowns. A lot of crossover here between these communities. They all touch. We've got tremendous support in these communities and tremendous leadership at all levels. As we are in Malden today, I'd like to introduce the Mayor of Malden, Gary Christensen, to come up and bring greetings from the city.
Good morning, everyone. First, let me assure you that we do plan to pave all of Canal Street. And don't worry about any of the parking restrictions that are in place while we work on that. As I think right now, you can park on the side closest to us, but not on the opposite side during the day, but you can at night. Leave it to the government, right? So if you do end up being ticketed this morning, please get it to me as soon as possible. Notice I said this morning, because last time this happened, and I didn't put a time frame on it, someone tried to give me a ticket that they got 6 months later in a different location. Now seriously, I not only want to welcome you to the city of Malden, but to also say thank you for all that you do for our communities. This is especially so as we continue to recognize and celebrate Small Business Month. And it's not just the economic impact of what you do for our cities and towns that is appreciated, but it's also your community spirit as well. Just last weekend, the Malden Chamber of Commerce held Pints on Pleasant, which brought together small businesses and residents from Malden's first ever beer garden, of which I'm still recovering from. It said that the shorelines had a 4.5% alcohol content, but I'm not so sure about that. Now, all these things we do, from paving Canal Street to supporting our small businesses, does not happen without support from the top. For those of you who don't know, I just met with the Lieutenant Governor on Monday night at an event in Boston. There, we discussed housing and transportation issues and how we can work together to better address them. Now, some of you may be wondering, if you were with Kim less than 48 hours ago, why are you back here this morning with her again? And the answer is because anytime I can get the opportunity to be with the Lieutenant Governor, I will be there. And it's not just to welcome her back to Malden, but it's also to say thank you to her for the positive impact she has had on our city. From the Malden Riverworks project down along the Malden River to new affordable home ownership opportunities at Overlook Ridge, she has, without a doubt, made a difference for our city. Thank you, Kim. And again, thank you everyone for being here and being a part of what makes our cities and towns great places to live, work, and grow. My friend, right here. And I'm not alone in that feeling, as I am also joined by Everett Mayor Carlo Di Maria. Mayor Di Maria. We also have the Mayor of Melrose, Jen Grigoritis. Hey, Jen. Medford Mayor, Brianna Longo-Cohn. The Mayor of Revere, Patrick Keefe. All right, I'm glad he's not from Malden. And we have the Chelsea City Manager, Fidel Maltez.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Keefe, if you're looking for some property in Malden, I can steer you in the right direction. So thank you very much for those kind words, and I'd like to have the opportunity to bring up State Representative Joe McGonigal to bring some comments from the House.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. What a great crowd here today, huh? Where's Albert? I think we should have had it downstairs, but it is nice seeing everybody here today. Good morning, and thank you all for being here and allowing me to speak. And thank you to the Chamber for another successful breakfast event. And a special thank you to our Lieutenant Governor, whose presence here this morning reassures the administration's support of the businesses in the Commonwealth. So thank you, LG. Am I allowed to say that here? Because when I see the Lieutenant Governor in the State House, it's, how I address her, privately. But good morning, Lieutenant Governor. And some of you know that I owned, long before I was a state representative, that I owned and operated a commercial construction company. And my background is in the building industry. And I used to joke with the Speaker that the only way that I would be at the State House was with a toolbox, and that's a true story. But things have changed a lot since then, and especially in your community, the business community. COVID hit all of you hard and has left a ripple effect that I always thought that I don't think my business would have survived it at that time. Changing economic and political landscapes have lasting impacts that made your businesses even tougher. And if you want me to have an honest conversation with you, I have, on certain pieces of legislation that I voted in favor of, that we have passed down the road, I believe, they haven't been too business friendly. So I need to do a better job of voicing my concerns to House leadership on certain matters that affect you. But every time that I come to one of these business events, I'm honored to meet and speak with you, to listen and learn about your concerns and questions. And I urge everyone here to reach out to your legislators and voice to them matters that affect you. Because I certainly want to support you in any way I can. And I believe this because small business keeps the Commonwealth running, and it is the driving force of our economy. And that's not just a cliche. That is a fact. So before I leave, I would like to recognize some of my colleagues in the room. We have one of my bosses here. Nobody, he doesn't need an introduction. Leader Paul Donato. Thank you, Paul. We've got Chairwoman Kate Lipabedian here. Tremendous job. And I don't know where my classmate is hiding, all right, but Chairman Altrino is here somewhere. Hi, Stephen. So once again, thank you for allowing me here and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. A few other comments that I would like to make. I'd like to take a moment to recognize the sponsors for the breakfast this morning. Up on the screen, Cataldo Ambulance Service, Metro Credit Union, Triangle Inc., Members Plus Credit Union, Margola's Pharmacy, and Better Life. Just a round of applause for those organizations. There's probably more than I can recognize from here, but I know a few city councilors are in the room. I know some from Malden, some from Everett. I want to thank you all for coming as well. I know we have the fire chief of Everett here as well. And I won't try to catch everybody because I know I'll miss, but a special shout out to, where is Leo Robinson? Right here in the front. So Leo Robinson's the oldest standing councilor in the city of Chelsea. So good job. So just to recognize all of those folks in the room as well. And we had a birthday. Where's Renee Queso Griffin? Renee, raise your hand. Where are you? Happy birthday. It's your actual birthday today. If there's any other birthdays, feel free to let me know. I can embarrass you too. Special thank you to Albert Spatafora and the team here at Anthony's for hosting this breakfast and doing such a great job and working with all 6 chambers to make this happen. And finally, to Edwin Manera, who was playing the guitar earlier through the entire, through the morning. Did a fantastic job. Did an absolutely fantastic job. So a little bit of extra entertainment. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring up Senator Jason Lewis to bring some comments from the Senate and to do the introduction of our Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to be able to be with you. Thank you so much to our local chambers of commerce for bringing us together this morning and for the very important work that you do, every day to support our small business community, our nonprofits, our civic life, and really to strengthen our local communities. I bring greetings and well wishes from my colleagues, Senator Jalen, Senator DiDomenico, and Senator Edwards, who also represent communities in the room today. And they apologize they couldn't be here. This is actually the busiest week of the year in the state Senate because we are debating and hopefully passing the annual state budget, which is really our blueprint for how we invest our state's resources. We are going to stay focused on making what we believe are fiscally responsible decisions to support the priorities that we know are important to our communities and our residents. But I'll be honest with you, this is a very challenging time for all of us. We're facing a lot of headwinds and uncertainty coming at us from the federal government, from the Trump administration. And, we don't know how that ultimately will upend, a lot of our plans. It's having a big impact already, and we don't know exactly where this will lead. But, I can assure you that, speaking for my colleagues in the state Senate and for my colleagues in the House, as well as the Healy-Driscoll administration, and obviously hear from Kim shortly, we are staying focused on doing the job that we know we were elected to do on behalf of our residents and our communities. We know what our priorities are. We need to continue to address the housing affordability crisis in our communities so that working class people, young people, seniors can afford to live in our wonderful communities. We're going to continue to stay focused on improving our transportation system, especially the T, but also, infrastructure like roads and bridges. We're going to continue to stay focused on economic development and supporting our communities, our small businesses, and making Massachusetts a great place to live, to work, to build a business, to retire. So no matter what happens nationally, we know what we need to do, and that's what we're going to continue to stay focused on here as best we can. And we do have a great partnership between both branches in the legislature. It doesn't mean we agree on everything all the time, but we respect each other, we work together, and we're very fortunate to have terrific leaders, in the corner office with Governor Maura Healey and Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll and their entire team, who are great partners on all of these issues. So at this point, it's my pleasure and privilege to be able to introduce to you our keynote speaker this morning, who is Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll. I'm sure many of you have had the pleasure of meeting her before. She is the 73rd Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. She was sworn in on January 5th, 2023, joining Governor Maura Healey in an historic series of firsts. Governor Healey is the first woman and first openly LGBTQ person elected to be governor of Massachusetts. And together, Healey and Driscoll are the first all-women executive team to lead Massachusetts, and I think one of only two in the nation. Is that right, Kim? One of only two in the nation. Prior to taking office as a lieutenant governor, Kim served as mayor of the city of Salem. She was first elected in 2005, and she has a fantastic track record as mayor, turning city deficits into record surpluses, strengthening a whole range of city services, revitalized Salem's historic downtown. If you've been to Salem recently, it's just incredible what they've done there. They'll probably be careful about going there in October. Led a significant improvement in Salem's K-12 public schools, reformed city pensions and health insurance programs to protect employee benefits, and brought more transparency to City Hall. The daughter of a Navy chef from Lynn and an accountant's assistant from Trinidad, Kim spent her childhood in a number of states before coming to Massachusetts to attend Salem State, where she studied government and was a standout athlete on the women's basketball team, a talent she shares with our governor. She fell in love with Salem and made it her home after graduation, choosing to pursue a career in municipal government in public service. In her role as LG, Kim has spearheaded several of the administration's priorities and initiatives, including being a key proponent for the economic development of Massachusetts cities and towns, and helping to address our housing affordability crisis. Kim also chairs the Governor's Council to address sexual assault, domestic violence, and human trafficking, the Seaport Economic Council, and she co-chairs the STEM Advisory Council. She has a lot of things on her plate. She also is extremely active in traveling the state and meeting with local businesses, local elected leaders. She's always out and about. Lieutenant Governor Driscoll is focused on working with Governor Healey to create a forward-looking Commonwealth and communities that work for, empower, and include all who call Massachusetts home, as well as those who aspire to do so. Please join me in welcoming Lieutenant Governor Kim Driscoll.
Hey, good morning, everyone. It is so great to be with you, to see new friends, to see old friends and meet some new ones as well. In addition to that very long bio, I just said to Jason, we've got to shorten that up. I've had the good... That's the abridged version. Oh, Lord. I've also had the good fortune to know some of you from my work in Chelsea. When Chelsea was coming out of receivership, I was the chief legal counsel, then became the deputy city manager there, and formed some amazing relationships with Leo and so many others in this room. So really familiar with the region, and that's why it's so great to be with all of you today to celebrate the good work that's happening here. Can't say enough about the opportunity to be with Dennis Cataldo. Dennis has been not only someone who I've worked with through the years, but really is also a friend. And he's the only person who could bring everybody together because he does such an amazing job really building that community, investing in communities. It's not just about the amazing EMS services they do, it's the relationships. And when you have a tough problem, whether it was during COVID or big events happening, Cataldo's always there and Dennis is always leading that. So thank you, Dennis. And no more manual labor for you, okay? If you haven't seen Dennis, he's sporting 2 black eyes. Yeah, you were. We need a better story, Dennis, all right? And it's certainly great to be here with my fellow colleagues, the mayors from the surrounding communities who are here. You know, I think there's no better job in the world than being mayor of the community that you live in and that you love. I was fortunate to do that in Salem for 17 years. I had a friend ask me, well, are there term limits? And I said, yes, sanity is your only term limit when you're serving as mayor. But it is the best job in the world. It's the hardest job in the world because there's no hiding. You're making decisions every single day for people that you're going to see and interact with, your neighbors. They put this immense trust in you, and it's also an obligation. I think it demands accountability like no other position. I think it drives listening and building consensus, and it's nonpartisan. There's no red or blue way to fill a pothole or pick up trash or really drive an economy. And it is the most important work when you think about the branch of government you're relying on, keeping your neighborhood safe, educating your kids, investing in those places you make memories. So mayors and local officials will always have not only our support, but we want to uplift and empower everything you're doing. It is the work that needs to be doing in terms of creating the vibrancy and shaping the policies. If we have strong and healthy communities, we have a strong and healthy Commonwealth. So thank you to all my mayoral colleagues. We're just back from the annual meeting in the Cape. Appreciate it. And Senator Lewis, who is the chair of education, this is the busiest day of the year for them in terms of reviewing budgets and amendments. Both all of the representatives who are here, who have already done that work on the budget, but every single day go to work, I think trying to find ways for us to work together. I like to think in Massachusetts we bring some of the adult in the room energy to governing because we care about issues, we care about outcomes, we find ways to get to yes. It may not always be on the same page or the same timeline, but there's a lot of success happening in Massachusetts, and our administration is really grateful for that true partnership. We listen to each other, we find ways to deliver for people in Massachusetts, and I think it's one of the reasons that we talk about the good things that are happening here. So I thought I'd share a little bit about the work that's been taking place over the last we're 2 years in, 2 years and a few months in, and some of the hope for as we think about what's ahead, some of the headwinds as well. You know, I'm fortunate to serve alongside Governor Maura Healey. We didn't know each other that well before the election. When you're a mayor, you just don't interact with the Attorney General in a super, super deep way. But I thought of the governor, the AG at the time, as like a can-do AG. I thought of myself as a can-do mayor, like how do we get things done? And then we were paired up in this race, and I could not be more excited to have the opportunity to work alongside Maura every single day. We like, respect, and admire each other. We both come from working class backgrounds. We both played hoop in college. We believe in this concept of team, and she's really thought of this role as like, let's be a force multiplier. Let's use the strengths that we have to build upon how we, develop policies, shift resources. We're in this, and we see every single day, how do we get to yes? How do we move forward? How do we engage more fully? And I'm just grateful to have her as somebody that I count to when I think about who do you want to be your governor, who do you want to work alongside. I get to work alongside Maura Healey, and it's pretty awesome. Together, we've forged this partnership looking at how can we do as much as possible in the time that we have to improve the lives of where people live. And I think that's because of the backgrounds that we both bring to this effort. We got in right away and said, look, we've got to find a way to make this place more affordable. First thing out of the gate was a tax package. We haven't actually reduced taxes in Massachusetts in 20 years. So putting together a tax package that put more money in the pockets of families and of seniors was really important to us. Driving down some of the outliers, things like estate taxes, other states don't even have. And with our high real estate costs, it's hurting families who never thought they'd pay an estate tax. We worked with the legislature and got that done. That was super important. We also knew everywhere we went, every community, no matter where it was, the number one issue was housing. Even in places where housing was more affordable, it wasn't more affordable to the people who were living there. And most assuredly, someone who lives in a gateway city, who worked in several gateway cities, like we used to be the affordable places for people to live. You could always get an apartment, pour coffee, pour beer for a living, and live in Salem or Everett or any of the communities that are represented here today. And that has fast become not true at all. That these are the communities that have seen tremendous growth, and because we haven't built enough housing, we've got real pressure on the supply that we do have, which is driving up costs. We got to work by creating a housing secretariat, separated housing and economic development, so we could put the full force behind how we address the housing shortages that we have. And that is so critical because having a safe, accessible roof over your head is just key to the social determinants of health. You know, when we look around this region in particular and see the pressure around housing and what that means, it creates real obstacles for anyone looking to hire staff at any level, for the healthcare needs that we have, food security, educational outcomes. They're all different if you don't have a safe, accessible roof over your head. So we got to work not only creating a secretariat, but ensuring that we had the resources available to try and move the needle and the policies. We passed the largest investment in housing in the state's history, a $5.2 billion bond bill that also had 49 policy shifts with it. Things like ADUs, accessory dwelling units as of right, ensuring that we had commissions that would look at how do we get better. Most of the communities in this room have a housing production plan. The state did not. All of this region, frankly, are really good examples of the positives that come from growth. When you develop housing, you actually have more vibrant downtowns, supporting your local coffee shop and local businesses. Density can be your friend if it's placed in the right way and done well. We knew that, and we've got to get there. The statewide housing plan that we have worked on has demonstrated that we're 220,000 units short of the housing that we're going to need through 2030. This is an us problem. Housing is expensive to build, it takes a long time, the process is long. When we do get it built, by the time it actually comes up and available, the demand is far outpacing the supply. We are deciding we're not just going to admire this problem anymore. We really leaned in with both resources, and frankly, we're putting our own shoulder behind this, whether it's the implementation of the MBTA Communities Act. We actually did not, we were not here, that wasn't a bill that we passed. I supported it as a local official, but we are implementing that. Finding ways to work with local officials and identifying where housing can be built, investing in our gateway cities in particular so that they're building more affordable housing through tax credits and tax incentives, and finding a way forward to ensure that we have the housing we need in communities that meet the range of needs. When you think about what kind of housing you need when you're 20, it's different than what you might need when you're 40, and different again when you think about what you might need when you're 80. And the good news is, like, we're all living longer. That's a good thing. But we don't have enough housing or the type of housing you need as you live longer. Something with supportive services, maybe one floor. And you want to stay in your community. I don't know a person that says, I can't wait to get older so I can go live in a nursing home. Most people, due respect to nursing homes, because we need more of those too, but most people want to stay in community. And so we're focused on trying to identify ways we can partner with communities to develop the housing that we need that can be more moderately priced for the people who need it, that we rely on every day. If you think about who you might be dropping your kids off to in the morning, who might be helping care for an older adult, the heroes during COVID who were checking us out of grocery stores and stocking shelves, they all need to live in our communities too. So we're putting our shoulder to the grindstone. We're frankly relying on working on partnerships with local officials, with the business community. I can't tell you how powerful your voice is when it comes to building housing. Because one of the challenges we have with housing and trying to have a pro-housing culture is that most developments start out with no, this is something that we don't want in our community. We've got to turn that around to yes, but how do we manage the traffic? Yes, but how do we address the water or sewer challenges? Yes, but how do we make sure it looks good and it fits in and meets the needs of our community? The only way we're going to do that is in partnership. I know when I was a local official, when the hospital president, the local coffee shop owner, the guy who owned the pizza store around the corner came in to talk to our counselors or our zoning board and said, We need this type of housing. How do we figure out how to get to yes? It had a powerful impact, because I can assure you there are going to be 10, 12, 15 people, am I right, mayors, who are going to show up every single project to say no. No, not there, not ever. And that's how we got in this mess. For 2 decades, we haven't built enough housing, and now any type of unit we have is very, very expensive. This idea that how we solve housing, to me, is somewhat interesting, because there are a ton of really intractable problems in government that are just hard to fund and hard to figure out, hard to solve. When you think about housing, like, there's an answer to addressing the housing crisis. Build more housing. We know it works. We've seen it in places like Austin, Texas. Austin, Texas decided that they had an incredible housing crisis. They had immense growth in Austin, their industry, all of the partners coming in that were creating good jobs and employment, but they didn't have enough housing, and it was driving up the cost of housing. They built 50,000 units of housing in Austin, Texas in a 2-year period of time. They put it on overdrive. Some of this happened during the pandemic. And now what they're seeing are their rent prices are actually going down. They've had a 22% decrease in rents. The average rent in Austin, Texas is $1,650 per month. Have anybody seen a $1,600 rent in Greater Boston? Yeah, lots of head shaking no, absolutely. Now, I'm not suggesting that we're going to get to $1,600 a month rent. I think that would be great, but we have a problem where we have 0 vacancies in some places, and that's a real challenge. I would go on, when I was a mayor of Salem, go on to Craigslist and say, how many apartments are available in the city of Salem? Almost 50,000 people. 6, 12, like, that cannot continue. So I'm here to say we need your help to build the type of housing that we need in our communities. Help us identify the locations. Show up at a meeting to say, hey, this isn't a terrible idea. Let's work to make it better. How do we do this faster? How do we ensure that we're the place that our kids can also stay here? And right now, our kids are telling us they can't afford to stay here. The biggest out-migration in Massachusetts is not, 70-plus-year-olds deciding they're going to winter or stay or move to someplace warmer. It is 26 to 35-year-olds who want to do the same things that many of us did when we were 26 to 35. Put down some roots, buy a house. So this is a problem that I think we can solve by working together. The governor and I are committed to making sure communities have the resources, that we're supporting the development community for very affordable housing. We all have very vulnerable people in our community. Medium income housing for folks who are working hard, don't qualify for a subsidy, don't want one, just want to be able to afford rent. And then market rate, more affluent housing. When you do well, maybe you want a nicer place, a bigger place. How do we figure out how to build that? How do we do it smartly, close to transit, connected to some of the places we're investing? So we need your help to do that. I hope as you hear this message, you can think about ways that you can get involved in your community, whether it's just being a housing hero and showing up for meetings, or it's not starting out with no in your own mind, like maybe there is a way that we can support more housing. Maybe it's supporting a local official who's got a pro-housing agenda. That's the way we're going to turn this around, and we really need a lot of help to do that, particularly in Greater Boston. We're committed to it. We're going to continue to fund it. We're going to continue to work it, and we need your best ideas, so bring them on to us. Now, you can't also talk about housing without talking about transportation, because it is legit. I just came here from Salem. I think we're like 7 miles away, and it took a long time. There's a lot of us who are driving because we either have to or we need to or we don't have the flexibilities. So one of the first efforts we undertook in this administration is like, we've got to fix the transportation system. We've got to have somebody in charge who actually has experience. Even before we were sworn into office, we were interviewing candidates for the MBTA general manager post. And this is a unique position. You need to have a background in transportation management. You have to have an engineering degree or at least some expertise in this space. We found Phil Eng, who came out of New York, had retired. We said, come back to work in making the MBTA a system we can all be proud of. I mean, you know how this system looked like when we took office just almost 2.5 years ago. Trains were on fire, they weren't on time, completely unreliable. For over a decade, we had not had a transportation official running our largest transit agency. Phil Eng came in, assessed the situation. We gave him some resources, put him to work. And the first time in 20 years, we have no slow zones on the MBTA. 0. That's a pretty good record so far. We've expanded the commuter rail to places like New Bedford and Fall River. We are working to develop a regional rail program. We are supporting operations and maintenance We want to run a railroad system in a way that enables you to know that it's going to be available, that it's going to be safe, first and foremost, and that it's going to be affordable. We've got new fares and admissions for lower and moderate income riders so that you can pay a little bit of a reduced ride. We're looking at ways we can build a regional rail out. So much of our system is tied to commuter rail where we see growth opportunities. And it can't be the old commuter rail that during 8 to 5 had a lot of trains. People are riding at different times. Ideally, we want to have trains on a regular basis coming forward. We also know public transportation is not just about the MBTA. It's a lot of it, but that's not the only thing. 80% of the roads in Massachusetts are local roads. We need to invest in our communities to give them the tools they need, what we call Chapter 90 dollars, local officials, it's bread and butter, to ensure we're thinking about the roads, the sidewalks, the ways that we can improve getting from point A to point D, the journey mapping that people do in their own way. How do we ensure we have the resources to do that? We're leveraging these fair share dollars in a way that's going to create an $8 billion investment in transportation. That's culverts, that's bridges, that's local roadways, that's ensuring that we have operational dollars for the T and for regional transportation agencies. We know if you're going to grow and have the housing that we need, we also need to make sure we have the transportation infrastructure to match up with it. We're committed to this effort. It's super important to us to make sure we're leveraging every federal dollar we can. When we took office, we were 7th in the nation in federal dollars coming in, federal grants. We were 34th in the nation in grants coming in. The governor took one look at that and said, 34th, why are we 34th? We have all these available dollars that are available through the administration. Let's go after them. Today, we are 7th. We brought in money. We brought in $9 billion between big projects like Cape Cod bridges and smaller transportation initiatives that are helping communities. And that's really important in a state that's nearly 400 years old. Like, we've got old infrastructure everywhere. Talk to any one of our mayors. When you've got a water break, you also have other breaks that happen because there's so much in the ground beneath that you've got to spend more. We've got to future-proof some of the infrastructure. We're seeing flooding happening in places that never used to flood. We know that the climate crisis is having impact on us, and that's why these investments from federal dollars matched up with state resources in a state that's committed to being forward-thinking is going to help us leverage not only the growth, but the way we get around in the transportation. I want to touch on economic development because I know I'm in a group of many small business leaders and just say thank you for what you're doing every single day. Rep. McGonigal touched upon it, that small businesses are the bread and butter of our communities. I know that deeply as somebody who invested in vibrancy in my community, that you are the ones who give to Little League and employ people for their first jobs and ensure that we're humming along and show up at chambers. If you're a chamber member, you're not here just because of the business networking. You're here because you care about your community. You want to make it better. You want to find a way to invest and give back. We see that. We want to honor that. And some of the work that we're doing to not only support small businesses, but create an ecosystem for investment. Like, that's really, we have to have a pro-growth ecosystem to ensure that we're getting better every single day. Main streets rely on it, big businesses rely on it, and in Massachusetts, I think we can bring more to the effort when it comes to competitiveness. So every 5 years, the state is required to put together a new economic development plan. It's a good process. It's legislatively required. Let's understand what our economy is telling us today, what the needs might be in the future as well. The economic development plan we adopted is called the Mass Leads Act. It invests mightily in some of what I consider to be our strongholds. We are the life sciences capital of the world. 8 of the 10 largest life sciences pharmaceutical companies have either their headquarters here or an outpost. This started more than 20 years ago when Governor Deval Patrick, in partnership with the legislature, put down a big down payment in life sciences. How do we accelerate and grow that business model here? And it worked. Life sciences labs, a lot of R&D, life-saving drugs and equipment happening every single day in Massachusetts. It's something we're quite proud of. How do we lengthen that lead, invest in that further, and make sure more people are winning? A lot of the R&D happens in what I call the 617 area code, Boston, Greater Boston, Cambridge. How do we make sure the biomanufacturing and other aspects of that business can happen and maybe benefit other parts of the region just outside of Boston? And we're seeing that happen in large measure. We also know that we have things like advanced manufacturing and robotics. These are strengths. We're a strong STEM economy here, knowledge-based economy. We are #1 in education, #1 in innovation economy, #1 place to live if you're a woman, #1 place to have a baby, ranked the safest state in America, the state with the best drinking water. I could go on. All of these #1s, you'll either hear myself or the governor talking about them a lot, just didn't happen by accident. It took investment. It took a state saying, how do we provide the scaffolding and the culture for the sorts of things to happen here that we already have a natural talent pool connected with it. Life sciences being one, robotics, advanced manufacturing being others. And when you think about your economic development plan, we've made investments in those areas. What's next? Wayne Gretzky used to say, I don't want to go to where the puck is, I want to go to where it's going to be. We think about that with economic development too. We want to go to where our economy is going to lead us and be strong. So the economic development plan also invests in things like climate tech, AI, quantum computing. We are seeing this knowledge-based economy take off at a level that I think is going to be akin to what we first encountered when the internet came online. 40% of today's graduates are going to have to be retrained at some point in their career based on what we're seeing when it comes to technology. How are we making the investments that are not just going to matter for today, but are going to matter for the next decade plus to ensure that Massachusetts has a strong and vibrant economy? And for us, that's looking at things like climate tech. I don't even know that climate tech was a word anybody would use 10 years ago. What does that mean? It means investing in things that decarbonize existing infrastructure, investing in clean fuel and opportunities to grow energy in a cleaner way, and investing in technology that makes energy use more efficient. If you think about the thermostat in your wall, it looked a lot different 10 years ago than it did today. Smart efficiency, sensors. How do we use these precious resources differently? How do we ensure what we're burning to create energy, and we need more energy, we have growth happening every single day, is going to be cleaner and better for the future? And how do we get smarter about the technologies we have? Here in Massachusetts, we have a company that is decarbonizing concrete. Sublime Energy came out of the engine at MIT. Concrete is one of the biggest leading emission aspects of living in any environment in the world. If we can decarbonize it while we're building, that is going to help us for decades. The place where we invented steel, modern day steel in America, Saugus Iron Works, National Park Service site, well, we have a company that is decarbonizing steel as we go forward, Boston Metal. These industries are here in Massachusetts. We want to grow them. We want to see them thrive. This is not just a responsibility that we have as human beings living in this place. It is an opportunity given the strength of the amazing talent pool that we have here. Talent pool based out of some of the higher ed institutions we have, the research that happens here. It is why we are number one in healthcare. It is why we are number one in these life sciences fields. So how do we invest in these spaces to ensure we're going to have a strong economy going forward? That's also part of the Mass Leads Act. And when you think about that, they have concentric circles. When we're building out economies, people need to live, buildings need to get built, lots of things need to get served and put together. That's how we build a strong economy, thinking about using our talents, using our strengths, leveraging those for the future. That's what the Mass Leads Act does. That's what those investments do. Doesn't also forget about small businesses. There are dollars in there to help with access to capital, to help with technical assistance. Nobody starts out as a 250 employee corporation. You start off as something small and then you grow. We have a number of what we call our quasi-agencies, and if you're not familiar with them, we have one in life sciences, we have one in advanced manufacturing, we have one to support climate tech, and we have one to support a number of our smaller industries called Mass Growth Capital. And their goal is to help you go from good to great, from small to large, whether that's CEO roundtables, opportunities to learn from others, from peers, or dollars and access to capital to help you grow at lower costs. Our goal is to make Massachusetts the best place to do business. That also includes taking a mirror and holding it up and looking at ourselves. Where can we shred permitting? Where can we get better at licensing? How do we ensure the things that you do, that we're making it easier for you to work smarter, not harder? We have right now a permit review underway within our offices to understand what can we do to use technology ourselves to make things faster, less costly, and move in a way, frankly, at a speed of business, which is not taking months to permit things and trying to get answers back to you as fast as possible. And I think all of this is born out of wanting to ensure we're doing everything we can at a time when we have some headwinds coming. Somebody said to me earlier, there's some noise coming out of Washington these days. And I thought that was a very diplomatic way to put it. Yes, there is a lot of noise in Washington. And I will tell you that some of it is the type of noise that is not great for Massachusetts. We brought together the largest NIH recipients in Massachusetts. We are the state that brings in the most National Institute of Health dollars. And they can't understand why we would want to cut research care for curing childhood cancer. Why would we want to reduce the number of postdocs on campuses here in Massachusetts? Why would we want China recruiting our scientists to go there? That's not great for Massachusetts. Frankly, I don't think it's great for America. Why are we making $322 million in cuts to the Massachusetts economy? Some of that's in food security and looking at how we prevent asthma, veterans benefits. There's a long list. That doesn't feel like it's good for Massachusetts. The last time we had a serious recession, 2008, 2009, I was the mayor in Salem. It was rough, right? Unemployment was high. We had all 9 C cuts coming out of state government because resources there were lower. But we had the federal government putting money in. We had ERA looking for shovel-ready projects. And what can we invest? We might be heading to a place where we have less federal resources and a downturn in the economy with the uncertainties of tariffs. We've heard from business owners, small and large, mom and pops to large global corporations, saying the uncertainties tied to these tariffs are harmful. We're stuck. We don't know whether to move forward. We don't know how much it's going to cost. I'm not sure if we should be hiring more employees or looking to reduce employees. That's good for nobody. So I can tell you, we are going to do the things that are in our control. We are pushing hard on housing, on transportation, on using this economic development bill to leverage every dollar to support a strong economy. And we are going to call out the harms, the things that are not good for Massachusetts, because we have to. It is not okay for us to be living in a place that people who are our neighbors are just disappearing, with masked men who aren't even wearing a badge, in a place that relies on immigrants to help support our economy. So we're going to stand up, call things out, and I'll harken back to why that's so important. Because 250 years ago, people in this state stood up to start this experiment called democracy. You know, last year, we celebrated the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party, who were really a group of disruptors who were like sick and tired. We're not going to be subjects to this anymore. Threw tea in the harbor and started, I think, the beginning of, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. And then a few weeks ago, we've been at Lexington Green and Concord. Anybody else out there at 5:15 in the morning? Nobody? I'm just the better patriot than all of you. Thank you, a couple of people. Why that's important, if you think about what happened 250 years ago, these were just ordinary people. They were farmers and merchants and laborers and blacksmiths. They were just like us who said, we're sick and tired. We're not going to do this anymore. But they were willing to risk life and limb to take on the greatest military empire known to mankind at the time in the hope of something better, this idea of self-governance and fundamental freedoms and democratic values. They didn't know what the outcome would be, but 250 years later, here we are. A belief in self-discipline and self-governance and the opportunity to believe in each other and support each other. It was the best action, the best illustration of collective action for a common good. And we're still standing. So we're going to do the work together. We think our secret sauce in Massachusetts are public-private partnerships, working with our amazing institutions, nonprofits, and higher ed coming together. There is no problem we can't solve. This state, and I can say this as a Navy brat who moved around, who's been in a lot of states, I wouldn't raise my family anyplace else. We think this is the best state to live. And we think we can continue for it to be the best state to live when we come together during tough times. And I think we're going to have some headwinds and they're going to have some tough times. But when we put the smartest people in the room, we're working together to solve problems. It happens here. That's why we're the #1 in all those areas. That's why we were first for universal health care coverage, first for marriage equality, first public park, first public library, first public education system. Those things started here because people cared about each other, were willing to link arms and go after it and get it. And that's the approach we're going to take these next 2 years as well. Let's link arms, let's go after it, let's get after it, just like those folks who were on Lexington Green who didn't know what they were starting, but they knew what they believed in. In Massachusetts, we do make the impossible possible, and when we link arms and come together, there's nothing we can't do. So thank you for being here. Thanks for what you're doing every single day to support your employees, to make Massachusetts a great state, and thanks for what we can do together during what might be some headwinds by working through it, acknowledging the problems, not being afraid to hold a mirror up to ourselves. We're going to continue to make Massachusetts a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Appreciate it.
If anybody has, do you have a couple minutes? So if anybody has a question they'd like to ask of the Lieutenant Governor, please feel free to stand up, raise your hand. We actually have a portable microphone. We can get it out to you.
Secretary, Ed Augustus, Howland, Secretary, they've been amazing to work with. This administration's been amazing to work with. They get back to you, they answer your calls. We're working on so many projects in the city of Everett on transportation, on housing, and we appreciate you, Kim. You know the struggles us mayors face, and we know we have you in our corner, so thank you.
Millionaire tax, which we know was supported by the How can you, as Governor Keeley, talk a little bit about making that more transparent, making the impact of those dollars impacting the sanitation, education, and food safety?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody heard that question, but I'll just repeat it. The question was about the millionaire's tax, the fair share question that was on the ballot that was voted on 2 years ago. And how can we make sure folks understand how we're using those resources, putting them to good work, and be a little bit more transparent? Part of that, that question required the spending to go to education and to transportation, which is great. Those are 2 areas that we obviously want to invest in and have big needs. And those dollars are what are helping support some of the transportation investments I mentioned, ensuring that we have a functioning transit system, that we have more dollars to spend in communities on roads and sidewalks, things like culverts and bridges, accelerating bridges. One of the opportunities that I think I'm most excited about when it comes to leveraging those dollars, that's part of the $8 billion bond bill, leveraging some of the annual dollars coming in to spend money on capital now. And you all know this, it doesn't cost less to do something 5 years from now. So if we don't use these dollars in a way that leverages the ability to spend today, not only is that good for the economy when you're talking about a transportation bond bill, you're talking about jobs that are going to help support the economy, but you're also talking about saving dollars on capital, because we're not going to build the bridge 10 years from now, we're going to build it now, and it will save on those costs and escalation costs. So 50% of the money is going for transportation, and frankly, those dollars are coming in at higher amounts than anticipated, which means we'll have more dollars to put in the transportation space. And we've been able to make those investments without any additional resources. So there are places, you may have read about New York and their congestion fee, and other states that are looking for ways to raise revenue. We're raising it through this mechanism. On the education front, think about the investments we're making, and it is still a tough slog at the local level. The Chapter 70 formula can be a difficult thing to balance, knowing how much costs are increasing for local schools and education matters. But we are helping offset some of those costs, special ed costs, transportation costs with those dollars, as well as things like free community college. I can't tell you what an amazing opportunity free community college is providing, not only for students who are just getting out of high school, who maybe aren't sure what they want to do, and this becomes a really affordable option to get an advanced degree, but also for career changers. We have close to 1 million people who started community college and then life got in the way and they never finished. And as I mentioned, our graduates are going to need to be retrained right now who are doing something they might love. Community college is the on-ramp to do that, to help with economic mobility, to create a credential. We've lost the ability here long ago where a strong back could just, in and of itself, could guarantee a middle-class income. We are a knowledge-based economy, and we need workers in healthcare, in STEM fields. So having the ability to access free community college is part of the fair share, which enables us to support the talent pool that we know businesses need. There's a pretty good reckoning of what we've been spending, and I think we could probably make it more, it's public, we could probably talk about it more, but investments in schools, in community colleges, in public higher ed. I'm a public higher ed grad. When I went to Salem State, you could hustle all summer, and I did. You could paint houses, you could be a bad waitress, which I was, among other things, right? But you could make enough money to pay for your college tuition and fees. That is no longer the case. There's still great schools, the UMass system, our state community colleges, our state universities, but you have to really support those middle-income families who are choosing public higher ed by providing resources to dramatically reduce those costs. So we have made public higher ed way more affordable, like really follow the student. Where are you going to school? How do we make sure if you have the heart to do it and the acumen to do it, we're not going to have money be an obstacle for you attending our public higher ed institutions. We've made community college free, which helps everybody at many different income levels and age groups, that on-ramp to credentials. And that's where some of those fair share dollars are going. So it's money well spent, good investments, not just for now, but for generations to come.
Thank you to the administration for the ways that you include everybody in the economy, and include people with disabilities, people with barriers, community college, giving people those opportunities to be trained, and we need all of our capital in the field, and for all the incentives to help employers hire those people. Thank you.
I just acknowledge our addiction recovery resource specialist, Paul Anderson, who's here with us today. For the record, he's on a vacation day. But I do want to let you know, Governor, 5th straight year, overdoses and fatalities are down in the city of Malden. Thanks.
Erica?
I just have a question for the Lieutenant Governor. My name is Erica, I'm the ED for the Revere Chamber. And my question for you is, given your respectfully, your range of experience, but most importantly, your strategic background in regional operations within all of these communities. Do you have any strategic advice to offer? As well, what is your feedback on the idea of more of a collaborative approach? So as you talk about, with that, as you talk about public-private partnerships and the advancement of these policy goals, what is your view as far as creating a regional chamber in such an area to regard Suffolk County, Middlesex? Because we see what's happening, pulling together resources, advancing these policy goals, the economic advancement. What is your view on that, and what would be your strategic advice with regard to these communities?
Well, thanks for that question. I think, I still live in Salem, and I think we always think of ourselves as a region. The North Shore, Salem, Beverly, Peabody, Lynn, we're in each other's cities and towns all the time. You might go to school someplace, go out to eat someplace else, work someplace else. And I think if you can find an alliance within a region that feels like that, but people are familiar with the geography, it's a great opportunity to try and grow and strengthen whatever the message is, whatever the call to action is. And we really believe, if the country was developed west to east, I think all of New England would be one state, right? But we weren't. And so here we are. We do believe there's strength in numbers. We come together as a New England region at the state level trying to identify policies. I'm looking at Dave Gendel when I think about the grid in ISO. Like, all of our power needs are driven by regional needs. So there is certainly strength in that. I will also say it is hard in Massachusetts. We all have our unique identities. Who are we going to play on Thanksgiving? Like, we can't go talk to Beverly. That's our rival, right? The truth of the matter is we need to find ways to do things differently here, whether it's regionally or being aligned on policies that maybe the infrastructure and the scaffolding are not regional, but we're all doing the same things. And when it comes to housing, like, if one community says no to housing, that impacts all of us in this region. And if all communities said yes to housing, that impacts us positively for housing. And so how we think about these issues, to me, has to be from a regional perspective. And we do have agencies like the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. We don't have county government in Massachusetts anymore, well, certainly not in our neck of the woods. There's still some vestiges of that in other parts of the state. And so it's collectively on individuals to find ways to strengthen. I know the mayors get together, the Metro Mayors Alliance, to set regional goals. So I think some of it's there. Can we strengthen it? These headwinds coming from the federal government are going to force us to do things differently. Not all of that will be bad. Some of that will give us opportunities to think about how maybe regionally we come together. I can tell you, as someone who's in state government now, having a regional voice is so helpful because we know that then we're speaking for a larger, not only geographic region, but ability to collectively help and bring more resources to bear. So I appreciate you raising it, and I also know there's some third rail issues there too.
Everett School Committee. You did touch on this briefly, but I've been seeing every single day videos of ICE kidnapping people off the street, especially in my community. This affects, the immigrant community is scared. So I need to know what you and the governor are doing specifically to fight against these kidnappings.
Yeah, thanks so much for raising this issue. We've definitely seen an escalation of ICE activity in communities in the last 7 to 10 days, most assuredly. And as the daughter of an immigrant, these are just so painful to watch. We know we have community members here, immigrant neighbors and friends, who work hard every single day. They're part of our community. And this is not what anyone wants. We've been really clear. If there are serious offenders or criminal activities, of course, we no one wants anyone who's doing harm in their community. But that's not what we're seeing. We are seeing lots of people being picked up who don't fit that bill. That's not what they said they were going to do at the beginning of this administration. And it's heart-wrenching to watch. We are trying to do everything we can to be supportive of communities when these activities are happening, supporting a number of our nonprofit agencies. This is a federal policy. As many of you know, state police are not involved in this. We don't have any notice before activities are taken. We are trying to engage more directly to understand. We would love a list of who have you picked up and why. We are calling out when they are taking these actions. and especially without due process, it's, again, not these aren't Democratic or Republican values. These are American values that we are standing up for, and I think that's really important for us to remember. Due process, that's built into the Constitution. It's not a suggestion. It is the law of the land. We're going to continue to call out when we see that happening, continue to support our nonprofits and the groups that we work with who are helping us spearhead efforts. We are trying to ensure that, the Know Your Rights training, all the things that we're doing to provide opportunities for our immigrant population to know what the law is. But there is no regard for the law right now in what we're seeing. And I think that's our biggest challenge is this is not an agency of state efforts. This is purely federal and being done in such a way that's designed to create dissension. We're actually going to be pulling together a number of our local leaders to talk about more directly what they're seeing on the ground. I know our Attorney General has been involved where we can, look at litigation or looking at opportunities there. They're fully on board to review that. But I want to be clear, the federal government is not giving anybody a heads up. They're taking action unilaterally. Oftentimes, what we think is very specious when it comes to are they meeting the requirements of the law. We're going to continue to call it out and support communities when that's happening. And just be clear on what those impacts are. Less kids in school, less people showing up for jobs or appointments, real fear every single day. And that is when nobody wins. If you are afraid to call the police if something happened to you, that's not good. Even though our police are very clear they're not involved and engaged. It's a real challenge for us as a state that doesn't oversee this area. And a real, I think, opportunity for members of the community. It'll be our voices. I don't think anyone from Washington is going to rescue us. There's no cavalry. It's going to be people local standing up for their neighbors who are going to make the difference here.
All right, one big round of applause for our Lieutenant Governor for coming out. Well, again, I want to thank everybody from the various chambers for showing up today. I hope you enjoyed the breakfast. I wish you safe travels as you leave and a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. Hopefully the weather turns for the better. Thank you.